What's going on, guys? Your big bad wolf Benny, and welcome to another edition of Comic Book Corner. If you guys didn't notice, I have Paul Phoenix with me again, which you know what that means. It's time for a nerd battle. So anyway, guys, today we're going to be discussing two characters that are very, very similar. In fact, they've actually met in the comics recently and actually became like allies / they didn't trust each other, but they were allies. We're, of course, talking about IDW's version of the Shredder and
Ra's al Ghul,
DC's Golden Child. So anyway, guys, I'm going to tell you about IDW's The Shredder, and then I'm going to let Paul Phoenix here tell you a little bit about Ra's al Ghul. So now IDW is the company, the comic book company currently producing all the comics for the Turtles right now. And like I've said in past comic book corners, it's kind of an amalgamation of all the Turtle universes, kind of putting everything together into a new comic, and I really personally like the story. So anyway, the Shredder now. Originally, his original body would actually belong to Toshiro Tatsu. Yeah, I know, right? It's a mouthful. But anyways, he was a samurai. He's part of the Yu clan, and he was best known for being a great warrior. Well, his master, who was going to become a daimyo, was afraid of him, so he couldn't have that. You can't be a shogun and have fear. So he planned to have him killed. So he sent him on a mission, and well, his men lost, and Tatsu won. He was saved by a mysterious woman named Kitsune, which is actually a Japanese fox spirit, but we'll get into that in another issue. So anyway, he's saved, and he ends up forming the Foot Clan, you know, by pretty much killing the Yu clan, and, well, that's how it starts, isn't it? It's all revenge. So anyways, this mysterious witch, as they call her, Kitsune, is giving him this green magic formula, which you end up finding out later is the ooze. They were getting it from an iron demon, or, as we found out later, is actually Krang. So eventually, Tatsu's killed by Oroku Maji, which is Oroku Saki, who later becomes the Shredder's father, and they take over the Foot Clan. However, though, before Kitsune ran off after Tatsu died, she placed a curse on Oroku Saki's father's family and said that Tatsu would be reincarnated, and sure enough, he came back as Oroku Saki. So he's training all this stuff, and all these secrets are being told that, you know, he's the reincarnation of Tatsu, and he's going to live forever and take over the world, you know, that same old cliche. So anyways, before, what Tatsu was doing to keep his youth up is once a month, he'd have to drink some of the ooze to regenerate. So very similar to Ra's al Ghul over here. But eventually, Kitsune found out how to keep him alive forever. So he basically had to drink, like, double the ooze, kill himself, and then soak in the ooze for hundreds and hundreds of years. Now, this was during the feudal Japan time, so roughly between the 11th and 12th centuries when it began. Then it ended sometime in the 17th century, so they don't really give a time reference, so he's old. You know, so if we give him, let's say optimistically he didn't start at the beginning of feudal Japan, somewhere in the middle, he'd still be about 600, 700 years old, so that's a fair assumption. So he has all this experience, plus when he died, on one of the issues I'm actually going to talk about in his micro-series, he's in the afterlife fighting all these demons and other warriors that are dead, and then he pretty much becomes the king of the dead by killing his future self. Yeah, because, you know, time's not a linear line, it's all over the place, so that happened. So finally, when you pick up with them in the comics, and another issues I'll be talking about is the Secrets of the Foot Clan, yeah, he was brought back by his great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter Karai, and yeah, he's pretty much now, he never has to drink the ooze again. He'll always stay at his prime. He's sort of given superhuman abilities, more in line with the lines of Captain America, peak-level human abilities. He's not really superhuman, but he's also a ninja, so he's got that going for him too, plus all the other experience he's got. So that's basically how the Shredder became Shredder in the new IDW. Now I'm going to pass the torch off to Paul Phoenix here to let him tell you Ra's al Ghul's story.
And so with Ra's, he was born about 600 years ago. So he's a little bit younger, but they're roughly the same. and he was born like somewhere in the desert to a nomadic tribe in the Arabian Peninsula. And it was by a city where the inhabitants had, like the ancestors came from Morocco, so he ended up falling in love with the sciences. So he decided to abandon his tribe and stay in the city and learn science and become a doctor. While he was there, that's when he first discovered the Lazarus Pits. Now, the Lazarus Pits are the means to him regenerating, sort of like the ooze. But while he was a physician, he got married, and his wife was coveted by a sadistic prince that Raish had saved. So the prince strangled Raish's wife, and the Sultan couldn't kill his own kid, so Raish took the blame. So he was sentenced to a slow, tortured death in a cage with his wife's corpse. But then he was set free by the son of an elderly woman that he had treated as a doctor. So then the son and Raish go back in the desert to find Raish's tribe. They convince the head of the tribe to follow in his quest for vengeance and plot the downfall of the Sultan. So Raish back then was even a bit of an eco-terrorist, like he became later on. He understood like a germ theory. So he was able to infect the prince with a deadly virus by sending him contaminated fabrics. And the Sultan came to ask Raish to cure his son, and Raish killed them both. So then Raish led his tribe to raise the city to the ground, kill all the inhabitants, and that's when he first proclaimed himself Raish al Ghul, the demon's head. So Raish uses those Lazarus Pits to extend his life. He spends several centuries journeying the world. He's fought in the French Revolution, the Napoleonic Wars. He is a formidable warrior, which is why he is able to hold his own against Batman, who is arguably one of the world's greatest fighters that DC has. But as time grew on, Raish began to despise humanity because he believed they were destroying the world's natural beauty, and that's when he became the eco-terrorist that he is now. So along the lines, he's had several kids. Nissa, who you might have recognized in Arrow, she was portrayed there. His most famous daughter, that you've seen in a lot of the media, like the Batman the Animated Series and all that, is Talia. Talia is also the mother of Batman's son, Damian Wayne, who... Is he the current Robin still?
I believe so.
Okay, so...
He was dead for a while, they brought him back, because,
Lazarus
comic magic. But anyway, so now we gave you a little brief history of both of them. If you guys didn't notice, there was a lot of similarities there, which is kind of why we wanted to do this nerd battle. Now again, now we're just going to get into basically like some of their skills they have. As you all know, they're both ninjas at the highest level. They also know other different forms of martial arts. Obviously, they're not going to restrain themselves to one martial art, one discipline. That's stupid. They're masters of, swords, pretty much any kind of primitive weapon that doesn't include firearms, but they probably do know how to use firearms just as well, because why not? They want to be the best warrior possible. So it really comes down to skill level and experience. Now, like I said, we don't really have a time reference for Shredder. We just know it's feudal Japan. So he could be just as old as Raish, maybe even older, and possibly even younger. But for the sake of it, we'll say they're both about the same age, because they really do not give a reference. They don't give a date at all in the Turtles comics, and I've checked a couple times. If I'm wrong, leave me a comment below and let me know that Benny doesn't do his homework right. That's fine. So anyway, they would have roughly about the same experience, because even, like I said, when the Shredder was technically dead in his coma waiting to be reborn, he was still fighting other warriors in the afterlife. And the funny thing is, too, if you're paying attention to some of the warriors, some of them are like from our time period, some of them are ancient warriors, some of them are from his time period. So he would have experience fighting all these different kinds of fighters. And in the comic, he even says, he's like, the best warriors are the ones who can adapt to their environment just as fast, which is basically what a ninja is to begin with. So he would have, not necessarily trained in all these other styles, but he would know how to fight them because he did in the afterlife, and he also fought demons, literal demons. Same thing with Raish. He's been around, he's fought in multiple different wars. The battle tactics change.
Right.
So experience-wise, I would say they're roughly about the same. You know, obviously maybe Raish has more knowledge on different styles, but the Shredders fought demons and won, and fought people out of time, and he was able to beat them. So I would say experience-wise, they're roughly about the same. It'd be a very good battle. It'd really come down to intelligence, and both of them, I dare say, are genius-level intellects when it comes to fighting anyway. We're not going to get into the whole science thing, all that good stuff. We're saying strictly for a fight. Now, I would say superhuman ability-wise, because neither of them are really superhuman.
Right.
But at the same time, the Shredder doesn't have to constantly drink the ooze now to regenerate, where Raish has to constantly go to the Lazarus pits. So that's the edge I'm going to give the Shredder, is he doesn't need to constantly go to find his pits to regenerate, where the Shredder is constantly going to be in his prime. In fact, he does have a slight healing factor. If I'm not mistaken, Raish technically does too.
Yeah.
So really, you can't edge that out. So the only edge I'm going to give the Shredder, really, which I think might be the difference maker, is that he does not need to constantly drink the ooze. He can, if he's seriously hurt, to faster heal. But for the most part, he does not need the ooze like Ra's al Ghul needs the Lazarus pits to regenerate.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point, because the Lazarus pits are a finite resource.
Plus, easily, too, if he captures one of them, he can hold it against them. So this is why I'm giving Shredder the edge, simply based on he does not need any more ooze to maintain his physical prime, is what he's at. Where Raish, it's every so often that he needs to regenerate. So if the Shredder destroys or captures a Lazarus pit, and like Paul Phoenix said, they're a very finite resource, they're very hard to come by. In fact, when he has one, nobody's allowed in there but him and select members of his family, because he doesn't want to waste them. So my edge is going to go to Oroku Saki, my boy the Shredder, simply for the fact that he doesn't have to have, you know, a supply of his regeneration stuff. He already has it in his system permanently.
Well, it also seems like, too, the ooze is a much more stable regeneration.
That's true, because usually when Rage comes out of it, he kind of goes crazy temporarily.
Yeah.
Where the ooze, in the comics, the way they did it is it's pretty much you put it on, you heal. Because there's actually in the first episode, or the first comic of Secret History of the Foot, Tatsu actually lost a leg. He lost a limb. They put the ooze on it and it grew back. And when it grew back, it was still missing like the flesh, so you saw the muscles and all that stuff. But at the same time, he came back, he was still completely in control of his mind. He knew what was going on. In fact, the last thing he remembered was, like, I was in the snow, I was about to die. So he was completely coherent. He knew what was going on. A little freaked out that, you know, he saw a leg grow back and had no skin on it, but hey, we'd all do that.
Yeah, like, when other people have gone in the pit, it's not a good thing. Like,
Jason Todd, let's use a prime example. Jason Todd, the second Robin, after he was beaten by the Joker, who Ra's al Ghul actually sent on them to distract them, he felt bad. He put Jason Todd in there, and Jason Todd like came back to life, obviously, because otherwise we wouldn't have the Red Hood. But when he came back, he went crazy, pun intended. So it's a very, very, it works, but sometimes the ends justify the means, because he can come back and accidentally kill somebody crucial to him. Right. Yes, they can revive him, but then he's wasting more of the Lazarus pit, which he doesn't want to do. So let's get right down to it. Who are you going with? You still going with Ra's al Ghul, or you think my sound fighting ability theories work out with the Shredder, because he does not need constant access to his regeneration stuff?
If it was a straight fight, I would give it to Shredder. But this is Ra's al Ghul.
It's never a straight fight, so that's a good point.
They both have an army.
They do. All of them capable ninjas, obviously.
Right. The Foot Clan versus the League of Assassins.
Really comes down. Now, my only thing that I'm going to add too is, if we're going with IDW, which we are, the Shredder also has mutants at his back, which that could be a big factor, because you've seen Rocksteady and Bebop in the comics take literally bullets that bounce off them because they have the thicker hide. They've had shuriken, stab, and they're still going. They're tanks. Let alone, he has a Lopex, which is an Arctic Fox. She's badass. If you guys haven't read, check her out. She's awesome. She can go toe-to-toe with the Turtles, and usually for some reason they always put her against Raphael. And they go back and forth where, oh man, luckily another Turtle came to help Raphael, or oh man, luckily somebody else came and helped a Lopex. So she's a very capable fighter. So like I said, plus, you know, all the other mutants that he eventually gets, you know, you get the Fly, you get Baxter Stockman, he's technically with them. And then, you know, he kind of forms an allegiance with Krang in this one too. Who didn't see that coming? 1984 cartoon, or whatever. So then he's got the Rock Soldiers. Just if we're going based on the entire army he can use, he's got aliens, he's got advanced technology. I think he's going to eventually end up taking. It's going to be a good fight. Because I'm not saying Raish can't, you know, get other members of like the Injustice Society or something like that.
Not even that. Raish is a dirty fighter.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's many a times he's manipulated Batman to do his bidding through basically blackmail. So I don't put that past Raish to not blackmail Superman. You know, Raish will take Lois. Superman's now a fighter against the Foot and his entire army.
And that's fair. The only good thing I can say is that's a fair assumption. We just don't know how Krang's technology, if it would affect Superman, because they really don't go into that in the crossover. Because there is actually Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Batman, IDW, and DC combined. Awesome little series. If you guys can get it, get your hands on it. My favorite actually is in the first one they did. I think it's issue 6, where Ra's al Ghul and the Shredder are teaming up, and they start mutating all of Batman's rogues galleries, and some of them turn into some pretty cool creatures. Like the Joker turns into a snake, which I love because he's got this even bigger grin. So it's definitely a good read. So, but let's end this nerd battle now. Do you still think Ra's al Ghul could beat the Shredder? Because my money is still on the Shredder with all his tech, all his mutants, all that stuff, plus just his regular foot ninja.
I'm still going to go with Raish.
Still going to go with Raish. All right. So, again, it's a nice dilemma. Like I said, everybody's going to have their opinion. Obviously, I'm more of a Turtle guy. He's more of a DC guy. That's fine. Let us know down below who you think would win. Like I said, I think we've both given you enough of their history, enough of their abilities, their experiences. We briefly just talked about what they can do to make their army a little bit stronger. So it's very plausible that I could be right or that Paul could be right. But who do you think is right? Leave us a comment down below so me and Paul know who's the smarter nerd. Because that's really what this is about. So anyway, guys, we're going to close this episode out to keep it shorter than we try and keep it. But I'm your Big Bad Wolf, Benny.
I'm Paul Phoenix.
And this has been another issue of my Comic Book Corner, Nerd Battle style. We will see you next time. Oh, and before we close out, actually, if you guys have a nerd battle that you want to see me and Paul get into, leave it down below. And as always, push that red button to subscribe. Ring that bell so you know when we have new content up. Because otherwise, you guys are just sitting there waiting. But anyway, guys, we'll see you next time on one of our many different programs that we have on Dragonfire Entertainment. Be it the Wild Wolf Show, be it my Comic Book Corner, be it Wes Freeman, be it DC's Treasure Box, any of those. We have so many, guys, it's hard to keep up with. I'm trying to think of them. It's hard. So anyway, guys, we're going to close this episode out. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you next time.